There we go. It should be working now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moonbow. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Network podcast. We did the first episode of this. I was going to say earlier on in the year, but it's 2025 now, which is mental to think. We did this somewhat in the middle of last year after one of the beta tests for Mechabreak, but I thought since we've had the announcement of the new closed beta test, now would be a great time to have a chat about what we're expecting, what we would like to see, and just generally have a bit of a chat about Mechabreak itself. As you can see on my right over here, Amy was supposed to be with us, but they're having to deal with something. So we are going to start, and then she's more than welcome to join us afterwards. She'll just give me a ping, and she'll be good to go. I'm sure most of you who are here will probably know me by now. My name is Danarai, FGC streamer, but I've recently gone to Variety and do all sorts of stuff, but I love mechs. Don't know if you can see behind me, I've got 4 SDW kits that I built over the last few months or so. You can't really see it because the light that's making me brighter is in the way, or the light is in the way, but yes, I'm very much into mechs. That's me. And I've got with me the wonderful I. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Ahoy there, sailors. It's I love God. Actually another FGC creator who is just into mechs. As you can see, you probably know me as the guy who plays Mechabreak with flight sticks and pedals. I'm not the person, that person. If you've seen those clips or you've been to my stream, that's me. We got a couple little Sinaju model I need to build here, of course. Working on that for a stream. We got our Banshee up here, my little favorite Gundam. I love me some mechs too. And Mechabreak is like the best mecha game to come out in a while, so we're here to talk about it.
That is very, very true. I think we've all been kind of playing a few different mech games here and there. Like, I don't know if you ever played the games, the Gundam Versus games. They were like a good substitute. Yeah, they were like really decently good games, but nothing on the level of what Mechabreak is bringing to the table.
Indeed. What we need is a good team fighter. I like to say this is what Gundam Evolution wishes that it was, but that makes me sad.
Yeah, rest in peace, Gundam Evolution. It had a real shot at being something, but I didn't play it much. But I heard that it was kind of bogged down with a few development decisions that weren't in its favor.
Yeah, it was definitely more the I would say it's more the publishers and their monetization.
Okay.
For another time.
That is indeed, because we're here to talk about Mechabreak. So, as we know, it's releasing in spring because they will not give us a release date. I think we were all kind of hoping that we'd get something at the Game Awards, but nothing except the announcement of the new game mode, which in and of itself actually seems really cool. It's the new kind of PvPvE extraction shootery thing. And as a enjoyer of Hunt Showdown, which is a really, really fun extraction shooter, I'm really looking forward to pairing the mechs with the extractions, but also the PvE aspect of it as well. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with it. What about you, I? What are you most excited for at the moment?
Now in the original closed beta, did you play the PvE? Like I think it was like the second or third beta, not the one that was open fully to the public. They did give us some of that.
Yeah, so I didn't play it myself, but I heard about it through the grapevine, which I wasn't supposed to, but I did hear about it. But it was called Mashmac, right?
Yes. That information is fully available to speak about now because that's before the open test had came out. But my favorite game mode was the 3v3 game mode. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting that with this next upcoming beta, as I am a little burnt out on the 6v6 game mode coming up 2 or 3 times. And I'm very looking forward to like smaller maps, closer teams with a little less chaos and things like that nature.
Yeah, I think because of how hectic a game with mechs flying about can be, a 3v3 is a nice change of pace as opposed to a much larger scale warfare type of game mode. So it will definitely be refreshing to just jump in with a team of 3, build a strategy around the limited amount of mechs that you can bring into the game, and then see if you can win. Do we know if there are going to be any kind of like official tournaments yet hosted by Amazing Season, or are we're still getting the information trickled out?
I'm not quite sure. I would imagine though, because looking at the development videos and the interviews they give us from the directors, I have to say they're like very interested in pushing new ways of developing this game, as well as like them discussing putting in like reactive AI assistance with such things like UI and setting things up for you. So I'm assuming they're going to try to push this as esports as possible. They did have that one tournament. It was
Oh, yes, they did. I missed that.
invitational for streamers, right? So I do assume they will be pushing the esports route as hard as possible.
I hope so, because with Marvel Rivals coming out, they've been really, really open about how they want to host these types of tournaments within the community. They've just finished, I think, top 8 games, and now they're moving on to either top 6 or top 4. And I watched one of the games, and it's so much fun. Yeah, they're really, really fun. I mean, I love Marvel Rivals. I'm a Marvel fanboy. But the fact that we get a third-person hero shooter, loath to call it a shooter because not everybody shoots. But yeah, it's a really well-made game as well. There's a few weird things like what was it? The FPS being tied to how much damage you do and how quick you can move.
Slowing down your character.
Yeah, exactly. But
I have been watching that. They just finished grand finals for the European region. I think America starts later.
They finished grand finals. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was watching it as I was cooking before this, and I must say the lack of pennies disappoints me, but also I hope that means she gets a buff because literally nobody played her. She's fine though. Like I've reached plat on Penny already.
Yeah, I think Penny. We'll move on from this very quickly, but just to talk about Marvel Rivals, I think it's very well balanced at the moment. There are obviously some outliers, but I agree. Penny is fine at the moment, especially if she's in a good comp. But kind of moving on and segueing into mechabreak, we don't really have that kind of tank DPS healer, or what do they call it? Duelist support.
The Trinity.
Yeah. We don't really have that.
Everybody seems to be able to do different things specifically to themselves, and they kind of are cohesive within certain types of compositions. Like you have a role, it's just not a clear role, kind of.
Yeah, well, it's not as clear as a Holy Trinity role, for sure.
Indeed, yes.
You've got, say, so let's take Welkin and Panther, for example. Both melee-focused mechs. Welkin obviously has that launcher, but the crux of his gameplay is to be a bit more tanky, trap you in a box, and then Beyblade you to death.
Indeed. As well as the fact that I've basically mained Welkin the entire last beta. He seems to be the anti-melee, being able to just keep other melees out as they all parry off of his spin when he does it. And it's hilarious to see a Panther who will basically smoke any other mech on the field, try to approach you with their spear, and I just start spinning and they don't realize that they're going to lose this fight.
Yeah, that was, I admit, that was me when I first started playing the game. I was like, oh, Panther's really cool. He's got these sick boosts and he's got this lance that can go through armor. And then you try and charge at a Welkin and you just get spin to wind and it's not fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's super fucking hilarious too, because you could just put up a box, put out a couple Beyblades and start spinning and they die.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about his extra Beyblades that he's got from his shoulders, which stun you as well. So if you even attempt to get away, they literally just stun you and then he comes up at you and smacks you with that axe. But to be honest,
if you're out of stamina, they will stun lock you for like a good 3 to 5 seconds.
I think some people were saying during the content creator beta that turned into like more of a public beta that they didn't like the fact that CC was very heavy. They wanted CCs to be similar to stuff in like Overwatch, and now we've got Marvel Rivals, stuff like that, where you get stunned for half a second at most, but because of how much damage each mech can pump out, that's fine. You don't need to be stunned for a whole 3 seconds.
Right. Now, I do find it a little questionable giving somebody like Aquila a stun. There's a couple situations I found very toxic, such as when you're in the city battle where it's team deathmatch. Aquila's, I found very often would go for the strat of flying above the edge of the map, which didn't have like a floor underneath it. It was just you fall off, you die there. And if you approach them, they would stun you, forcing you to fall into that hole. as well as the fact that their stun just lasts quite some time and they can snipe you at least twice by the time you get up.
Yeah, I think that stun is one of the things that I would hope they address at least, just because, like we say, you don't need to be stunned for a whole 3 seconds to get all that damage off, especially not if you've got the better sniper in the game who can do a lot more damage than... The other one's name? I forget.
Narukami.
Narukami, that's the one who's got the invisibility and the wall cling and stuff like that.
Right. Even though Narukami can one-shot you, Aquila has more health. I would say it would be fine for Aquila to stun you and maybe get one shot off, but getting shot twice from a stun from a single character is a little risky.
I think stuns from a sniper generally shouldn't be a thing. The stun should be on another mech so that you can pair with the sniper, so you have to communicate rather than the sniper just being the kind of one tap stun and then one tap headshot, for example.
Right. As well as that probably being something people complained about, and seeing how they actually reworked Welkin, basically took away his long range laser cannon because he's not supposed to be long range, and gave him those Beyblades. I could imagine them somewhat reworking Aquila, because giving a sniper a stun is
mental,
questionable. Yeah, like he's getting guaranteed headshots off of that.
Yeah, for sure. So on the topic of mechs themselves, who is your all-time favorite mech that we've seen so far?
All right, so when I came into this game, I'm like, I'm going to be a Falcon man. I'm going to be a Wing Zero player. I am going to be that ace in the sky. And I love it. I love the mobility. I love the speed. I love that I can just chase people down, especially since they gave him a slight damage buff. Even though they nerfed him a little bit later in the middle of that beta, I found that it's not amazing for solo queuing. If you're going to solo queue and you're not sure if you're going to get any form of assistance, especially since the melee suits become faster than him with their new assault boost technique, it's more likely that I switched back to Welkin, because Welkin can legitimately 1v1 and win against almost every mech except for maybe Tricera or something, and just carry the team. I can hold a whole point by myself. I can capture points by myself. So as a solo queue, which I do pretty often, maybe duo, maybe trios, Welkin is the one I'm looking forward to.
I think we're going to see a lot of melee focused players at first because, they're so much cooler than the range stuff, and people love the fact that you can be up close and personal in another mech and go at it with an enemy teammate or an enemy player. So you tried to be Falcon, didn't really work because of solo queue, then you switched to Welkin. Out of those two, which would you rather play? Solo queue or group play?
It depends. If you can get a good group of friends, I find that stacking, even though this is where I have this complete issue with team gaming in general. It's the balance of, if I stack, I'm going to run into other stacks and the matches are going to be exponentially sweatier because we're both organized. But if I solo queue, then it's quite highly likely that I receive zero assistance whatsoever and I just have to play my own game. So I find getting 3 people together minimizes the randomness of randoms while also not forcing us to face completely organized other teams. So I would rather not solo queue because of the randomness, but I also am not such a good team shooter gamer player that I think I should be doing 6 stacks, since I come from fighting games and I'm just now getting into the team genre. I'm I would say a mid-level kind of gamer, maybe slightly above, especially with all the practice I've been putting on Rivals now. I can't wait to implement that practice into Mechabreak. But I'm definitely looking forward for something like a duo or a trio, especially since I'm going to be living most likely in 3v3. So if I find my solid 3v3 comp, that'll be great for me.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think because I tried most of them. I tried Welkin, I tried Falcon, I tried Sky Raider. I tried to veer away from the heavy. No, Amy is unfortunately not here at the moment, but she will hopefully be back at some point. Yeah, so I tried a bunch of them, tried to shy away from the kind of heavy tank ones just because it's really not my thing. But
Mhm.
I do agree that sometimes in solo queue, you just have to not rely, especially when there's no ranked mode, right? And it's more so just
Right.
all quote unquote casual play. It's better
Yeah.
to just be really good at what you do, and that is how you support the team. I would hope that there is some kind of matchmaking system and a ranked system when the game fully comes out, just to be able to kind of mitigate some of that randomness. But if you end up solo queuing
We
in
did
ranked,
have
you
that in
never
the
know.
last open beta. We had ranked. It went up. I think I made it to platinum on like 3 different accounts.
Well, so
But
I think the problem was that it wasn't problem. The situation was that it wasn't a ranked game mode. It was just the set
alright,
of game modes that you had was a ranked system. So you would
yeah,
climb or you would rank up or de-rank generally just by playing the game. There wasn't a specific ranked mode, which was actually kind of cool. But I think a game will really live or die by how accommodating it is to each side of the player base. It has to have like quick play, solo queue, just go in for fun and practice a bit, and then it has to have that more sweaty,
right,
organized ranked play.
for sure. Now I found also with team play in these games, even though I prefer to not go over like a 3 stack, I tend to solo queue more often than not because of a lot of the times the nature of these things creates tension within groups and like especially when you get up to certain ranks, egos come into play. People think they know what they're talking about when none of us know what we're talking about.
Hmm.
And the general communication, like this is a thing I find in general for team games, especially like Marvel Rivals lately, is like I don't think you should be able to communicate with the other team because more likely than not, it's something toxic. Like, oh, this diff,
Yep.
you suck, log off, bro. Like, yeah, that kind of thing. So I understand communicating within your own team and such.
I yeah, 100%. I think it's just become so standardized now that it's generally included. I think
Mhm.
what was the game? It might have even been For Honor or For Honor
Yeah,
and Rainbow Six that allowed you to toggle between all chat, team chat, or no chat. And I think that's a really good idea because if you toggle to team chat,
that is something.
you wouldn't even see the opposing team chat. Not that you just couldn't talk to them, which I think is a decent system because it gives player choice and
That does sound like a great
advocates.
system. I like that
Yeah,
idea, honestly, opposed to just not communicating with the enemy team at all.
yeah. And I think
I do like that idea.
9 times out of 10, I'll get a. Well, both teams will exchange a GG or a
Yes.
GGWP or whatever. And
If it's
sometimes there can
not
be
a
a.
GG, then it's probably diff.
Yeah,
Or
exactly. If it's
something
if
like
it's not
that.
GG and WP, it's diff and BG. Those are the only
Yeah,
two. There's no like, oh, decent game, but we lost or whatever. There's two ends of
yeah,
the
yeah,
spectrum, and that's it.
for sure.
Oh man, team games are always going to be a bane to try
Yeah,
and
I'm getting
police.
into it, and my friends are like, "Oh, it's funny to me. I'm just desensitized to it." And I'm like, "Bro, I generally feel disappointed in like humans when I play team games sometime. Why are y'all treat each other so badly based on a video game?"
Yeah, it's a forever problem. It's the internet. People hide behind anonymity, and you just like you say, you just get used to it, and at a certain point, you just laugh at it.
Yeah.
Did you ever play? So I know you're just getting into team games now, but did you ever dabble in games like Squad or Insurgency Sandstorm, games like that? No.
No, no. My only team game I played was Overwatch 2, and
Mm.
I barely made it to silver. I was not grinding that game very much. What other team games? No, that's really it. I spent like the past 4 years grinding fighting game tournaments, and now I'm like switching over into team gaming, like Pokemon Unite, Mecha Break,
Oh wow,
Overwatch, things like that.
that's fair. I only ask because the nature of those types of games seems to be quite different. So when you're playing Squad or Insurgency Sandstorm, these like or Armor, these massive large scale warfare games, it kind of forces you into these specific roles. So you've got the commander has a squad, and then anybody can make a squad and be a tank crew, or they can be a mortar crew, or they can be like forward operating base creators or whatever. And I think immediately that it fosters a better sense of community because you're all there understanding that this isn't going to be won just by one or two people. It's going to be won by communicating as a squad. But then, like you say, you move over to team games of like 6v6 or 5v5, and the responsibility is much bigger. The burden is heavier on individual players to work as a team. So it does get pretty toxic at times. But however,
a lot of people tend to think.
I'm sorry, no, you're fine. It's just I think I will say in Mechabreak when we were playing it, there were only a few really upset, angry, salty people, but most of the time it was like really nice interactions with your team and the enemy team because, you know, it's a beta. People know things are going to change and you talk to each other in a constructive way, and it was really nice.
Right. I tend to find, as well as in these smaller games, when you're given a hero, like a hero, and not like a class, like a rocket launcher or a sniper or something like that, and you're giving a hero, people tend to think they are the hero.
True.
And like
very true.
The comms go crazy and like people running off by themselves. But like I can't say I'm opposed to this entirely because my entire thought press going into solo queue after half of that beta was I'll do it myself. Especially on like the deliver the key missions where nobody plays the objective. I'm like, I'm just gonna pick Welkin, I'm gonna grab the key and I'm gonna take it to the thing myself. Or on like when we have to push the payload, I'm like, this game mode needs Tricera and Stego, both of them, to just sit on top of the point. And if I cannot get somebody to do that, I will do it myself.
Well, so it's funny that you mentioned that. So somebody in the chat, Gunso Gunplay at the moment, me and him queue together quite often, and he loves the big tanky mechs. Even in Gundam, he loves like Sinanju, stuff like that. You know, he would pick Tricera and Stego quite often, and I would usually pick Panther. But when we were doing game modes like take the keys to the objective area, it was really difficult for like the heavy ones to take keys because you were a lot slower and you'd be a bigger target. So sometimes we'd just pick like Sky Raider and Falcon, swoop in, pick it up, and then bolt right to that objective point.
Right. Yeah.
And it was really fun.
I would play Falcon and I would go fast, but sometimes I would get caught by the melees. Now, sometimes. I found because Welkin is fast as every other melee, which he should not be that fast. I don't know why that big boy is so fast. I can take the key, fly faster than a plane, get to the point, put a cube on myself, and cover myself in Beyblades and be safe. Basically, if anybody approached me, I just start spinning. The only people who could really kill me is like snipers and people who could hit me from long range.
Yeah, that's true. I think when it comes to game modes and picking certain mechs, there's definitely going to end up being a meta for each game mode because that's just naturally how games evolve, right? There are some mechs that are good at really quick engagements, like I can't even remember what the game mode's called, but when you were talking about the city one, where it's like the elimination.
Oh yeah, the deathmatch, yeah.
Yeah, the deathmatch. There'll be really, really good mechs like Narukami.
I found the snipers were really good on that map, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
People off if you can't find them.
Exactly. But like on the map, which was the Take the Key, forgive me, I forget the names of the maps, but it was much more difficult, at least I found, for snipers to play in that game mode because the terrain was much trickier to navigate, especially if you had to drop down to pick up a key and you could find cover, you could be body blocked by other mechs because you knew you were going to be able to respawn. So yeah, I think the meta is going to form relatively quickly, but I actually can't wait for that because it will be really good to see what the meta is and then potentially completely turn it over when a new mech comes out or whatever.
For sure, like I'm interested in seeing new mechs. I already basically had certain metas I figured out, like the game mode where it's 3 different points, and you have to dominate the different points. I just found Welkin can win almost any 1v1, so I'll just keep flying back and forth and just sit on one of the points and have my team hold the other 2 or something. Or like the game mode where it's deactivate the thing, it's like in the crater and you have to go and deactivate the bombs and such. If nobody was helping, I found often that Stego could just go there, put up his little mist, and then put his shield in front of him and start taking it. And when people notice, they'll just walk into your shield and they can't see that your shield is up. And by the time they notice, then it's just over for that point. Or as well as the map of pushing the payload. If there's not constantly one of the 2 turrets sitting on top of that, then you might get pushed back or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Those were the metas I found for those kind of points, yeah. So I'm interested in seeing like what mechs are going to come out and completely force you not to play certain things, or like counters and such that are coming out like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, in addition to the new mechs that might be coming out, we don't know what the buffs and nerfs are going to be. I hope they're transparent with that, because I really, really enjoy it when fighting game devs started doing that. Especially, I think so. It was really Soul Calibur that started it, at least from what I remember. It was Soul Calibur 6, where from season 1 they weren't really aware of communicating as much regarding the changes that they were making. Then season 2 came in, and then they were listing all the things that they were changing, why they were changing them, and what the changes are going to be. Which is really, really good. And now I kind of expect that from every competitive game dev now, because it's a good thing that your players understand what you're changing and why. Even if they don't agree with it, I personally think that it's a lot better for your game's health.
Transparency, yeah. Transparency is key. And Gunso, I'm looking forward to some reworks. Like I said, we might want to rework a little bit on Aquila, but Narukami being like, it was an all-arounder, not Narukami, Pinaka being basically an all-rounder at one point before they nerfed its DPS a little bit. I think those sky walls don't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, I get it, but like, they're dropping from the atmosphere at light speed and shredding any heavy player. I don't think Pinaka should be doing that. So let's hopefully see a rework on that.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's the fact that Pinaka has its energy type weapons, which shred the heavy armor types, especially on Tricera. So Tricera, like you were saying, can tank almost any other mech in the game. But if a Pinaka comes up and just holds down left click, Tricera's done. Nothing it can do.
For sure.
So I think...
So I'm hopefully looking forward to that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they'll change things up. There was a lot of complaints on certain things, to say the least. And they seem to listen to the community on a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of changes, I wanted to move on to this, and we're segueing quite nicely into all the things I've written down on my notepad. What are some of the major changes, if you've thought about it, that you want to see to either the mechs, game modes, any maps that you think need to be changed?
Okay, so main changes I would like to see is, I brought up earlier that the deliver the key missions, people tend to not do the objective. So potentially either making it brutally obvious that you need to go to the point, or implementing some kind of penalty, or like just a large structure or a large blip that's on your screen, or like something to stop the random fights and get people's eyes on the objective. I would like to see that on that map specifically. For certain, that's probably the only map I would like to see changed. Every other map I found to be fine. Well, except for like the defuse the bomb missions. That's the same issue. People are not going to the points. So like maybe make it huge and glowing or something. But that's just one idea of many that could happen. Now, for specific mechs, we did already talk about Aquila potentially losing the stun. I think Pinaka's sky walls should not be a thing. Maybe give it something else. But I think we should lean that thing more into a support / defensive role. Sky Raider, I don't know how they were doing it, but the Sky Raiders that actually found out how to play that thing were just dropping so much damage. There's a challenge, a Falcon challenge, where you have to fight 2 Sky Raiders solo, and they start off in front of you, and
Oof.
their little diffusing poop that just ruins your lock on
Yeah.
makes it impossible to do that. So I'm like, hopefully we figure something about that. I think Narukami. I know they nerfed its clones.
Mm.
So I want to see how that plays out because I know the clones on top of the invisible bubble was a little strange.
Mm.
Um, as well as the melees, their assault boost, I think should be slowed down a bit. There's no reason that if I'm in a Falcon dashing at full speed, that I should get clipped by a Panther
Mm-hmm.
chasing me. So we need to lower maybe that speed a little bit. I get it; they're supposed to be interceptors, but like there are certain things that should not be intercepted.
Yeah.
Who else would I like to see a change on? Oh, we talked about this before. The what's the main one that transforms? I forget its name.
Alisness, that one?
Aleseness, yes. Aleseness has too many lives.
Mm-hmm.
Aleseness on the deathmatch game mode is broken.
I
He
agree.
has 3 lives, and what they'll do is they will just run at the end of the game, and they have more health than you by a long shot. So when the acid just starts clearing your health bar out, the Aleseness just lives and wins for not dying. So we talked about potentially starting Aleseness off in its heavy form, so it only has 2 lives, and it
Mm-hmm.
has to switch back instead of 3 lives, because 3 lives is definitely too many. Um, any other changes I wanted to see potentially? I think Stego was fine. I thought Tricera was fine. I thought Welkin was fine. I've tried mostly everything. I think they buffed the other healer. I forget its name.
Oh, the one with like the little pew pews that you
Yeah, I
could
would like to see that
switch.
buffed a little more in the
Lumine.
sense that,
Lumine.
yeah, Lumine. When you're playing Lumine, you really can't tell often that you're healing people or if your healing is being effective because there's like no feedback, like there's no
Mm.
sound feedback, there's no vibration or like anything indicating that you're healing other than like an icon or something a little bit that's hardly noticeable. Um, they even it was poop, but they did buff it and it was helpful. I think they should buff it more, but I understand Pinica was the new baby that was in the current beta, and you gotta drop new characters as better than worse, or people just won't play it, as shown in a lot of DLC. I call it the DLC effect, where you drop a
Yeah.
DLC nearly broken, so everybody wants to play it, and then you rein it in later, rather than dropping it in week and nobody plays it.
Looking at you, Tekken 7.
Yeah, for sure. That's the DLC effect. Drop a broken character and then rein him in next.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else I wanted to see changed? They nerfed my Falcon a little bit. I didn't like that. I think Falcon needed a buff, to be honest, because like the Sky Raiders are cooking, and Falcon is like not a clear role other than to just be annoying and
Mm.
like chase down stragglers. So I'm not sure how they would buff Falcon. Um, hmm. Other than that, did I have any issues? I don't think I don't think Panther should be one-shotting the super squishies. Like as a Falcon player, if there's a Panther, you just die like more
Mm.
times than not without even noticing him. Like there's no time for reaction whatsoever unless you're looking at him. There should be a chance to escape. Um
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Pinica got its DPS reduced during the last beta. But like I said, I do think Pinica should be leaning more into the defensive support role rather than being a shredder. But it was their DLC baby. What they did was they lowered its shield value because the shield value was ridiculous on Pinica. That thing lasted so long through so much damage.
You're talking about the
Um,
shield that that it can put on other people, and then it shields them, and then
yeah, she could
it
also
can.
put that on herself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't
So
remember.
besides Welkin, when I was playing the key map, I would play either Pinica or Welkin because both of them could pick up the key, go very fast, and just protect themselves. But I
Yeah.
don't think she should also be doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Like the thing about it wasn't just the beam damage. The thing people started doing is those sky walls You drop them on top of people and they do significant damage.
A
So if you
lot of
drop them
damage.
on top of like non-mobile characters, they just start dying. So I want that completely gone. I want you to give her something else that's defensive and not offensive, and lean her more into that defensive role.
Yeah.
Very close to do what, the bubble? No, I was playing Pinnacle and I would just chuck that at somebody. If I had a duo,
Yeah.
I would be like, yeah, grab the key, take this bubble, and go.
Yeah.
Oh, the wall drop. Yeah, you have to be basically in their face to do the wall drop. But Pinnacle could do that because Pinnacle has so much defense. She can just walk in your face and melt you before you melt her.
It's true, especially like you were talking about with that shield. Just put the shield on yourself, walk into range, drop three walls, bail, and that's all you needed to do.
Dead. Yeah, dead.
Yeah, for sure. I would say I agree with 99.9% of what you mentioned, but till I die, this is the hill that I will die on. They shouldn't have nerfed Panther's boosts. They should have nerfed his they should have nerfed his the assault boost. When he when it melees, it shouldn't go as far or as quickly to a target. But the ability to be able to, yeah, of course you've heard it before, because this is correct. Keep Panther's boosts, the amount that it has, and how frequently they recharge, but nerf the distance that the assault boost goes, because that was the main problem. The fact that they go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was basically my point. Is that the fact that I need to stop gendering these fucking robots.
Yeah, we do gender the robots.
I know it's so silly. The fact that Panther was able to engage quickly by just boosting is the point, because they don't have a ranged weapon. The way that you are supposed to engage with Panther is that you boost really, really quickly around the arena, and then you find somebody, and then you go in for the kill. But the fact that Panther had that, plus the assault boost that you could essentially do from really far away, was too much. So keep the ability to dash in and out, backwards and forwards, up and down, but nerf the ability to dash directly at someone with the assault boost. And I think that's my one major change. That, yeah.
I do think they nerfed it a little too hard when they did, but it was a menace. They kind of slapped him really hard.
Yeah, it's true.
When he lost his regen ability that he had, which was fair. That was fair. He had way too much shield regen.
Yeah.
But he should be able to keep moving quickly with how squishy he is, even though he does have a shield. It's not 360.
It is 360.
They did try to. I mean his physical.
Oh,
shield.
The physical shield.
360, but you can get rid of that. Now the thing they did towards that was the assault boost. They tried to make it drain your boost faster, which I still think they should up that a little more, but for specific mechs, because even though that didn't heavily affect Panther's ability to assault boost, it really affected Welkin. Like, Welkin will just run out of breath in a couple seconds because he assault boosted, which is fine for him. He's too big. That makes sense. But yeah, we might want to rein that in just a little bit for Panther, but I do agree that he should have his dashes because he does seem like that mobile dancing, almost Exia kind of character, which everybody was basically painting him to be Exia. So I'm like, let him have that.
Yeah, exactly. I think Exia is the kind of perfect example, is that take the 360 shield away, let Panther keep the frontal shield, because essentially what you want to do as Panther is charge up that lance and head straight for your opponent. So if you're able to keep that shield up while you're charging and as you're like actually charging in, I think that would be a good trade-off for taking away that 360 shield, so that when you are flying around, you have to be on it and locked in every single time you make a movement. But if you've got that 360 shield, you kind of don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like that change. He doesn't need that, to be honest.
Yeah, so I would personally want the ability to dash buffed even more, because you're supposed to be this quick, nimble, melee-focused mech, but take away the ability to 360 shield. but
That makes
compensate
sense.
for
It gives
that.
him more skill.
Yeah, exactly. It makes Panther a harder mech to play, but it's then rewarded by the ability to move around more. It kind of feels like, you know what? I'm relating all these characters to characters in Marvel Rivals because I've played it so much. A bit like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like you fly around the
You have
arena.
the mobility, nobody's catching you, but you have like not much defense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what would set people apart from just playing Panther because they like the mech to them really investing time in the character and becoming really good with them. I think that would be a really good trade-off.
Right. And he does seem like the character that, if anything, would be between Panther and Falcon. Those are the pro Genji players. I think you gotta be like really skilled. And the 360 shield just allows you to be a little ignorant because you have time to react when you should be constantly moving and looking around and making smart decisions at basically all points in time. I
Yep.
think that is a good role for him, yeah.
Yeah, I would. That's just the one big major change that I would make to the mech that I play the most. But everybody will have the different opinions. In terms of other things that I would like to see changed, I kind of agree with your assessment of players not playing objective, but that will be a forever problem, and you'll never get rid of it completely.
Yeah.
I think it was also just a case of it was a new game and people were just able to get their hands on it as kind of a public beta for the first time after the creator collab. And it was kind of understandable that people just wanted to fly around and engage in PvP. But as a game gets older, it's much easier to differentiate the people that want to play the game for the objective, especially if you're in a ranked mode, and those that just want to play for kills. And then I really want them to have a good report system because all really, really good competitive games have that now. Rainbow Six Siege, For Honor, Tekken. Unfortunately, Soul Calibur doesn't have it. I think Street Fighter 6 has it now. A really simple way to report people. Yes, it will mean more people get reported, but if you have a good system that will enable the devs or the community managers or whoever to look through the footage of that specific game, it makes it much better, in my opinion.
With that, remembering the PvE challenges were really good. I do agree with that. Some of them were ridiculous. Like some of those challenges were like, bro, which I get it. Like, yeah, they want you to master your mech. But with that, I think we should make a better system for the like modules they had because some of those stats were not obvious whatsoever what they did, as well as the full stat of what changed on your mech was in a completely different UI than when you were actually putting in the modules. I think you should put those on the same spot, or we could just remove completely the module system because it's a little weird. I get it. Sure, you like modular, you make it different, you make it yours, you make it unique. But as well as the fact that I hope that again that we do have this 3v3 game mode in the next beta, because I do think that's where people who just want to fight should go, because that's the whole idea is you just go there, you fight, Gundam, battle start. But like then there's you want to play a 6v6. But I do believe that they're going to be pushing the 6v6 a lot harder because that's going to be their primary esports game mode for sure. While I hope that the 3v3 doesn't just get left as like a second thought, I think the 3v3 could honestly provides more exciting gameplay. It's constant fighting. I get that like the 6v6 is like coordinated team gameplay that involves a lot of things other than fighting. But if you would just want like a spectator sport, like a gladiator arena, the 3v3 is going to provide so much entertainment for that kind of thing.
I would hope that, I keep saying this, I would hope, because we literally know next to nothing about what their esports content is going to be like. But when it gets to release time, that they just give everything equal time. So the 3v3, the 6v6, the extraction stuff, I hope they just give it all equal attention, at least in the beginning. Because obviously, as a developer, you don't want to put resources into the thing that people don't really play as much. But considering that it's a mech game, I think most of the game modes will be popular for quite a while.
Right. Now, I think because I did play the PvE mode, if they don't change what was in the original beta, I don't think it's gonna do well. Because the fact that I think it was a few teams of 5 or 6. It was already gone. Well, it wasn't in the last few betas. No announcement or details. I mean, they announced something. They showed that thing that they showed in the Game Awards was Mash Mech. We just didn't have the bosses fully implemented when we got it. But the thing about even with that, the problem was, even with an extraction mode, the fact that there's so many people in a group and that there is no rezzing, people would die and just leave. And you in a team fight, when 6 people run into 6 people, it's gonna get really chaotic. And there's no way for a single survivor / straggler, maybe 1 or 2 rats from your team, to any way overcome a team of 5 or 6. So therefore, I think we should bring it down to like maybe teams of 3 or 4, because even on Welkin, I can win the 1v3, maybe even a 1v4, but I'm not winning a 1v5 as a Welkin rat or a Falcon rat or like a sniper rat even. Like, it's just gonna be impossible. As well as the fact that the objectives you were looking for were so spread apart that you would just be flying through the mist fighting NPCs for a very long period of time before you actually ran into anybody.
Yeah. So me and Gunn also play quite a lot of Hunt Showdown, and I honestly think what they've done with Extraction and PvPvE is perfect. So it's not a Tarkov where you go in and you find all sorts of gear and then you put it back in your stash. It's plainly about the weapons and like supplemental items that you bring. And if you get downed, you can be revived. But if your health bar gets depleted while you're downed, you can't be revived unless somebody gets a bounty token, sacrifices their own life to get you up. I think that's a really, really good system to incentivize people who may just be matchmaking randomly to stay in a game, because there are opportunities to get you up. But the way that they're doing the extraction mode at the moment, it seems like they're taking the Mashmac 6v6 aspect, putting it in the extraction mode, and just kind of leaving it in there. But again, this is all speculation. We don't really know the details of the extraction mode. So there could be rezzing, which I think would be a really good addition to an extraction mode, especially when you've got mechs. I still
think 6 people would be too much for something like that. You could bring it down to like 4, maybe 5.
Yeah. I think taking away the 6v6, especially in an extraction mode, would be much better. Groups of 3 can be generally pretty good, especially if you have multiple of them instead of just a 1 set of 3 versus a 1 set of 3, because it seems like a really nice number when you have 12 people in a match, in a game or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it as well, to see what their take on an extraction game mode will be.
I'm very excited.
There was rezzing in Mashmac
to play, yeah.
Well, yeah, there was rezzing in Mashmac, but I don't think it was as quote-unquote easy as it is in a game like Hunt Showdown, or maybe even... Does Tarkov have rezzing? I don't think so, right? Like, you die and you die. That's your scav or whatever gone. So the ability to res a mech that gets downed and then you can repair them on the spot would be much more engaging for people who want to try and get back into a fight than exactly like the Apex thing where you call in a dead player. I think it's much more engaging if you're able to pick somebody up as soon as they get downed, if you're able to cover them.
Easier, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't obvious how to res people. So
yeah,
maybe we figure something out, because you need like at least 4 people if you're going to go into a group of 6 to go fight.
Definitely. I think minimum, if you go into a 6v6 game mode, you have to have minimum 3 people, because if you can at least coordinate in your 3, that's still half a team that's able to then hopefully help move the flow of the game in a right direction. But if there's 2 of you and there's 4 other people who aren't in your group, it's much harder to try and help the flow of battle be in your favor.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Man.
we'll see how they play that out. I'm interested to see. I mean, I do think they listen to the community very well. There's a few things I'm concerned about, like their push for the AI implementation. I get that we're trying to cut the future and everything, but I
Yeah.
mean, our focus should maybe be other places in certain times. But I do think it's at least interesting to see what they're coming up with.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot to be explored with AI. Just also to be clear, I hate generative AI. I think most reasonable people do, but there is ways that you can implement artificial intelligence, like for example the way that Nvidia and AMD try and do it, which is like frame generations, DLSS and shit like that. But inside of a development sort of system, I think there are ways that you could do that in terms of, especially if you have a PvE mode, increasing the amount of AI that you put on your NPCs so that it actually feels like you're, or as close to fighting a player as it would be if you were actually fighting a player, as opposed to really knowing that it was a bot, which actually got quite obvious at later times in the evening when you would get 2 or 3 people that were humans and then the rest of them were bots because they'd be running into a wall constantly or aiming down at the floor forever, and it was a pain.
Now, one team I would take from this is I played a lot of Naraka. That was the one team game I probably played a lot. But the thing about Naraka is the AI was so good. I would often tell people if you can win those AI matches, you'll smoke like anybody below like C rank or something. And even over the years, I think they were collecting player data because every time I came back, I'm like, why is the AI smarter? Why am I like getting insta parried by this AI that's absolutely smoking me with player combos? Like Naraka had combos and the AI started learning those combos. And I was like, bro, why am I getting 0 to death by this AI? Why does he know that combo? But it was still cool because I'm like, at least it's interesting and it's involving. I'd rather have smart AI than dumb AI, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. So I also played Naraka quite a bit, and I really, really loved the melee system in that game because that's what its focus was. So you had a kind of rock, paper, scissors approach to it, but it wasn't just a simple, this thing beats this other thing. It was, you have to look for the tells. It was like reacting in a fighting game. If somebody did a thing that glowed blue, you could parry it, I think it was. Then if it was gold, it was unblockable, or red, and so you had to dodge it. You know, it was a RPS system, but you could react to things when you got better at the game.
I called it rock, paper, scissors if you could cancel rock.
That's awesome. I love that phrase. I'm gonna put that in my repertoire now. So I would love a system like that for the melee focus mechs in Mechabreak, but that's a lot of work to implement, especially when you've got a ton of other things to work with. So like my ideal melee focus gameplay would be that of somewhat like a bit of Naraka, a bit of maybe For Honor, but I'm happy with where the melee combat is at the moment. I think it has enough depth to be satisfying.
We've got a little, I mean, even though we have a perfect block system, it's a little difficult to implement. Maybe they should make the window a little bigger on perfect blocking.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, but like the only person who really uses that is Aleseness and Panther. Vulcan, you get parried just for attacking into my spin.
Yeah, exactly.
As well as Tricera. Tricera has to like sit down and you perfect parry if they hit while you're transforming. Yeah. But I mean that was a big window for Tricera. If you attack him while he's transforming, you're basically gonna get parried. But for certain characters like Aleseness and Panther, the perfect parry was like you got a perfect parry.
For sure.
But if you did, you get rewarded with a free hit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a base system that I think should be in any game that has a melee combat system in it, because it just makes sense. You know, if you time a block correctly, it counts as like a parry or riposte or whatever the hell we're calling it now. You get a free hit or 2. You know, take advantage of it.
Yeah. Some of the parries are not good enough. Actually, to be honest, when playing Panther, or at least it wasn't 100% guaranteed that you would get a hit for the parry. So like maybe a little more stagger or something. I mean, specifically Panther, just because Panther has that sweet spot, you
Mm,
gotta like if your thrust wasn't fast enough after the parry, they could just move. But like
hmm
Aleseness with it had a downward swipe and a sideways swipe, so you could get your hit. But it depends. It's more like guessing what your opponent was gonna do after you parried them and kind of calling them out for it.
Yeah. I think one of the bigger problems with the melee combat that I found was if you just had your shield up and somebody charged at you, it would still count as like a parry, even though it wasn't a perfect one. So they would still recoil, but it wasn't obvious that you were able to get a free hit because the recovery felt too quick sometimes. It wasn't
Yeah.
consistent at all. So I would definitely, if they're not going to implement a much deeper system, like say a For Honor system or a Naraka system, then
Mhm.
just a system
Yeah,
that
just
enables you to
do something
perfect
else.
parry. Yeah, so like a perfect parry gives you a guaranteed, and that's in the training mode stuff, it gives you a guaranteed 1 or 2 hits, and then it's up to you
Mhm.
because you essentially have what us FGC players would call frame advantage. What you do next?
Right.
Do you use your movement skills because you have plus frames? Do you go for another attack because you think they're going to try and attack into you? Um,
Right.
but if you just attack into a block, it doesn't count as anything for either. It's just a neutral reset because
Right.
being like sitting behind a block for an eternity for both players is going to be really, really boring. But if you're able to reset to neutral rather than have your character just go boom because somebody's sitting there in block, means that you're both on even footing until somebody decides to make a move and gets countered or they make a mistake or something like that.
I like that. I like that. Definitely implements a more like actual defensive system rather than this kind of seeming sort of parry. I think we should just do away with that animation for sure and work more into the melee system, especially with the amount of melee characters that we have.
hmm And at least some of them that have melee attacks as well, which will probably only get bigger the longer the game's out
Right.
for. But to move away from the melee side of things, because we're two very heavy melee focused players. In terms
Yeah.
of the ranged combat, I think we've spoken about the snipers and having a stun into a sniper. Sorry, having a stun
Double
as a sniper
invisibility and a stun.
and
Yeah.
a stun, and then you've got the invisibility stuff. I think the snipers we can agree are a little bit too strong. But what are your thoughts on kind of the ranged gameplay at the moment? Do you think it's fun? Do you think it's engaging? Do you think it's a bit boring? What are your thoughts?
Um. One, I don't think the snipers should have auto aim at all. Like, I get that you can toggle it on and off.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have auto aim at all. Because if you're far enough on a Narukami and you see a falcon flying by, you're for sure clipping him. And he only has 1 second to make a choice to attack you. And if
Mm,
you're far enough, he's not getting there. So, like, make that a fully skilled based weapon, maybe. But as in terms of like actually playing them, I think Aquila was really fun for like being a heavy
mm.
sniper because I play melees. Half the reason, like 80% of the reason, is I can't aim, so I might as well just hit you with something. Um, but I think the engaging gameplay of Aquila was being able to just stay in the air and just move around quickly with a defensive shield made
Mm.
him like even though you're a sniper, your charge damage isn't one shotting like Narukami, but you can provide support while also not dying instantly.
Mm.
Now I also played Narukami, and even though I was not the greatest with using the stealth system, the problem I had with Narukami is as a Falcon, even if I knew where Narukami was, if I went to him and I tried to burn him down face to face, he could still quick scope me in my chest, kill me if I was point blank to him while I'm trying to like and like tick his health down. If
Yeah.
he happens to get a lucky shot at my chest, I'm just gonna die. So like I like the sniper systems where like quick scoping took a while, or like if you fired out of the like hip fire, your shot would just completely go somewhere else. or like the quick scoping took a second to be implemented
Mhm.
because it was like honestly no way to deal with it if you weren't a certain kind of mech, like a heavy or something. If you were anything under a heavy and you approached a Narukami, she could still basically 1-2 shot you just for being close to her. What other range suits? I Sky Raider having a sniper was kind of funny, especially since it wasn't really a sniper.
Yeah, the
Um,
beam that you could charge up, and yeah, it was a bit of a weird
yeah,
system.
maybe something else on that. What other range characters did I play? I really like Stego with huge open maps. Boy, you could just rain bomb down. Oh, I got like a couple ace play matches with Stego just bombing people. But the fact that he sucks indoors because all of your stuff arcs upwards was a
Yeah,
little bad. So you got to play something like maybe Tricera. So maybe give him a way to like angle his bombs the way that he wants, make him do a little, and that provides more skill to the character because you have to do calculations on the drop and the angle of your missiles and such.
true.
What other range units did I play?
Just to interject,
Mhm.
I forgot Hurricane existed. What is the point
Oh,
of that striker? Like, I don't get it.
so I did play both Hurricane and Inferno. I'm confused which one was which. I know one could buff itself and apply like clones, and the
Hmm.
other was like a pure long range. Um, Inferno was the one that could provide itself with clones.
Yeah, Inferno was
Hurricane,
like the Exia thing where it could. Yeah, it looked like it was like an after
yeah. The thing
image.
about that would draw your fire away if like you were following. It was almost impossible to kill in certain situations.
Hmm.
Hurricane. The thing about that was its whole idea was I'm going to buff myself and wait, let me refresh myself on
Yeah, this
Hurricane.
exactly. Nobody fucking knows what Hurricane does apart from those crazy lasers. But
I would pick Inferno more times than not, but yeah, Hurricane.
yeah, like the
Oh, Hurricane
lasers.
had the shields. Um, so Hurricane could one,
Remember?
it was a mid-range to long range
Hmm.
kind of beam sniper that
Okay.
could defend itself. So like it had decoys that would draw fire from long range characters, and it had a shield
Right.
to reflect you.
Oh,
Uh,
I remember those damn decoys. Yes, because as a panther, you would charge into them, and you would do no
exactly.
damage to Hurricane. Yes. Okay, I kind of remember now.
And then it had the bubble around itself as well. So, but I think that Hurricane was too close of a playstyle to Inferno, even though they do two completely different things. Like Inferno wants to play long range and escapey,
Hmm.
while Hurricane can play mid range offensive. Um, I think there should be a little more differentiating between them, giving them basically almost the exact same laser because it is almost the exact same chest laser
Hmm.
is a little strange. And that it would just burn your health, to be honest. It was a defensive burner, which is strange to say, but
Yeah. Well, I'm just reading the
they were both a little
background.
defensive.
Hurricane
Mhm.
is the sister model of Thalassic Federation's flagship striker Inferno. So that checks out that they're very similar in
Right,
some ways. But
right.
yeah, this is the thing. When you talk about it, I can remember, like my memory gets jogged. But seeing Infernos and Hurricanes, I really didn't care. Like if I saw a Hurricane and an Inferno, I would gladly take that over Stego and Tricera. Just
Yeah,
because
her like Hurricane was good on the point, but you would rather a Stego or a Tricera sit there and just block for
Well,
sure.
that's the thing. If I was going to play a defensive game, say we were defending against a payload moving, I would rather have Stego and Tricera on my team, but I would rather play against Hurricane or Inferno because they seem. Maybe it was just the players that we were playing against during the
Right.
entirety of the beta, but I don't know. I felt like their impact was very very low. It's not the fact that I don't like big boys because I'd rather have a Tricera or a Stego on my team. It felt like they had minimal game impact, as it were. But
Now, the
again,
thing I had a problem with on Triceras, which
mhm.
you say Hurricane is going to out DPS Tricera most of the time, is Tricera is not meant to just sit in a turret form most of the time. Stego is. But Tricera would be very effective very often, especially as a Falcon player that would bully turret Triceras because he literally can't look upwards. Tricera is great at flying in the air and providing like just pelting bullets at you while flying. Stego could not do that because Stego doesn't have really air abilities. But Hurricane, it did have really good defense because it had a chargeable gun. But like it didn't really have an identity of that. Like if you're gonna be defensive, then be defensive. If you're gonna be offensive, then be offensive. But like that's the same thing with Pinica. If you're gonna pick one, then pick one. But like I get that we don't have the role or the trinity for it. But like yeah, I think Inferno was fine at what it did. Inferno was a slippery offensive heavy. But like what do you classify Hurricane as? An offensive defensive heavy?
Yeah.
I don't even make sense to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was the fact that it felt like they were very much jacks of all trades rather than specifically going down a route where I felt like they didn't really do anything the best. But, you know, like chat is saying that they were really good, especially Hurricane. So maybe I was just not seeing good players. And the ones that were picking Inferno and Hurricane were...
figure out.
Yeah.
Inferno took a while to figure out. Hurricane specifically, I didn't really like Hurricane. I would just rather pick Inferno most of the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like it must be the case that they're harder to play so that the players that did play them, especially during a limited time like a beta, didn't have enough time to fully master them, which is why I don't really see them as threats at the moment. But
right.
I'm being told I'm wrong, so like I say, I'm happy to be proven wrong. If that's something I don't mind. I don't mind strong characters or strikers, whatever they're called. Yeah.
Now the team play did go up. This is why I said there was specifically a stat on these characters that was team play and solo play, where one of my friends would complain very often that he's playing Pinica so he can help his team. When I'm like, you should play for yourself. He's tired of getting left alone and dying on Pinica because nobody's playing around him because it's a team character. When I'm like, pick a character with a high solo stat.
Well, Panther.
Solo stat through the roof. I just win alone.
Yeah. Same with Panther. Panther's solo play stat, like in the, I don't know, what do you call that thing where it shows you like defense, offense, team play, solo play.
The fucking JoJo diamond, yes.
Yeah. Whatever the fuck that's actually called. The solo play stuff, for the most part, was pretty accurate, like you're saying, with Welkin, especially Panther as well. And then the team play stuff generally was pretty good, especially when you brought Lumine or Pinaka. So, you know, if you were annoyed at getting left behind a lot, then just pick a solo play striker because you're going to have way more fun.
Especially in like solo queue. So it will definitely be characters that are better in solo queue and team characters that are like, it's going to be a completely different tier list for solo queue and like team queuing with a team.
Absolutely. Radar chart. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think there's enough room for these types of comps as well. You know, I don't think anybody's not going to want to pick a Panther because its radar chart says it's mostly for solo play, because in its ability to play solo, it can get elims, thereby helping the team. So
exactly. Being a solo, you can come out of nowhere and peel for somebody. Just you can go off and go make decisions on your own, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think we also need to, this is something I didn't really see, was start playing it like a hero shooter to a certain extent, because you would see Panthers go for Stegos and Triceras all the time, when you will lose that fight.
You shouldn't be doing that. You should not be doing that.
Yeah, go for the squishies. Go for, if you see the healers, go for the Pinaka. Go for the Lumine. If you see a sniper, boost your ass over to that sniper position and force it to move. Because even though you are taking yourself out of a particular group fight, you are stopping a much bigger threat in a sniper trying to one-shot people from across the map.
Yeah. Your RX-78 is Eliseness. That's all I can hear, bro.
Also, just to...
Pinica's kind of humanoid.
Just to talk about the point of the community hates being told it's a hero shooter. Marvel Rivals is a hero shooter in the same way that Overwatch is, even though not everybody shoots. But the core concept of a game like Mechabreak is that it is a hero shooter. You have heroes slash strikers, and then you have specific roles that fit a bit less into the Trinity system than Rivals does. But you still have these roles that are somewhat defined with the heavy strikers and the medium strikers and the light supports and whatever. They exist for a reason. So it's a fucking hero shooter, all right? I don't care.
No, your character is a hero. If you're not literally a faceless drone in like COD or Battlefront or like no classification, just a weapon, then you're not a hero. But these are named characters. These are heroes. It is a hero shooter because these are heroes named. They have names. If you didn't have a name and your name was just sniper, gunner, missiler, then maybe you're not a hero shooter. You're just like a kind of a team shooter. Yeah. But these are heroes. They have names. You're a hero.
With specific archetypes that are built for specific things for it to do. But it's a mecha shooter.
You have your job, Well, it's not so obvious what your job, especially with certain mechs that need to probably lock down in one more kind of classification that we talked about. Yeah. It's not so obvious, but some of these, you definitely know your role. It's not like the trinity of tank, healer, offense, but you have I like the idea of Vanguard, which is basically anybody who can play in the front. Strategist, anybody who's kind of playing in the back / middle. And what's the DPS classification?
In Mechabreak,
I don't even play. No, in Marvel Rivals.
Oh, Duelist.
I don't even play DPS. Duelist and Duelist, which is like assassins and people who are literally dueling people.
Yeah.
So I would give Welkin the Vanguard, give Narukami and Pinaka the strategist because they have to make plays and make strategies, and give Panther the duelist because he's out here dueling everybody.
I need to turn these off. One sec. Somebody just redeemed a voice thing, and I forgot to turn it off on these sources. There we go. Should be fine. Okay. But yeah, absolutely. People can say it's not a hero shooter all they want. And like Drexos is saying in the chat right now, that's fine. It's a mecha shooter. It's a mecha hero shooter. That you just add a word before hero, and that's what it is. It's a mecha hero shooter. Yes, the hero is technically the pilot inside the mecha, but at the same time, you are the one that's piloting the mecha as this character that you create beforehand. So it doesn't, the distinction is very, very blurred. So, end of discussion. This is a mecha hero shooter, and if you disagree, you're wrong. Okay.
That reminds me. I didn't notice it myself because my main character was female. The males have the same walk animation as the females. They don't have a separate
the hip sway, boy. The hip sway.
Y'all need to make separate male animations. But I also understand that it's an Asian game and everybody wants to see the women. The camera zooms in on vacuum sealed crotch shots.
It's true. It's so true. To be honest.
So I understand.
100%. But the thing is, I don't even care that when I made a male pilot that he had the hip sway animation when getting into the striker, because I thought it was funny. If you want to take the game. If you want the game to be more serious, then sure, add a different animation that you can apply to your pilot if you want.
Separate animations would be an idea.
Yeah. You've got animation 1, 2, 3 for female pilots and 1, 2, 3 for male pilots. Like an RPG, as it were, when you're creating your character, stuff like that. It would be better that way, but I don't care that my male pilot has a hip sway when he gets into his striker. I'm looking at the striker for 90% of the game. I don't care. So, yeah.
They definitely did the women first. And the fact that you do have to look at your fucking saran-wrapped ass at the beginning of every match is like if I didn't fucking know this because I don't play a guy, but I'm sure that it's gonna bother the most masculine of gamers.
Yeah, masculine. Yeah, for sure. Mhm. Definitely
Testosterone.
secure in their masculinity, 100%. Seeing a pilot that you're never ever going to see outside of this one animation. Although,
I mean, but they were talking about putting your pilot in that
pilot
AI
v
situation.
pilot. Yeah, exactly. The pilot v pilot thing, where you can actually, there's going to be an arena where you fight pilot v pilot with guns and not with your mechs, your strikers, which is more intriguing than I thought it would be, because it's a whole separate engine that you're going to have to make or implement for this kind of stuff. Is it going to be like your
female run animations and shit?
Well, less so that, but more so, are you going to be in like zero gravity? How does that affect ammo if you've got like a ballistic weapon as opposed to an energy weapon?
It would be cool if they did something like Gundam Battle Operations, because Gundam Battle Operations, you very often end up fighting outside of your mech in your regular self.
Yeah, and that would be pretty cool. Speaking of Gundams, and this is getting to an hour and a half, so I do want to kind of wrap this up. Don't want to take up too much of your time.
Damn, I thought it's been like 30 minutes.
I know. We're having a lot of fun here. Last thing let's talk about is collaborations, right? So you talked about Gundam. We have to have Gundam collabs, right? We have to have Gundam, Eva, Baby Darling in the Franxx, but I don't want that. Anime was garbage. But like
that's gonna come probably.
Yeah. But like, is there anything specifically in terms of any of these franchises that you would love to see in terms of a collab? I see you doing
Eureka
this.
7. I would love to see Eureka 7 come in. I love that anime. That shit was so good. I would love to see damn it, my drill was gonna pierce the heavens. Why is my name was just escaping me right now? Gurren Lagann. We need a Gurren Lagann crossover. Give me a cape with some sunglasses. Give Welkin. Welkin would probably be the best person to put the Gurren mech on. He's just built like that. What else would I like to see? Not just Gundam. Maybe a Sword Art crossover. I could see that coming. Dum 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 dum. Probably those are probably my best ones. I really want to see some Eureka 7. Give us a Sky Surfer mecha or something. I would love to see some shit like that.
I've not seen or read Eureka 7. I'm just looking at some of the mech designs now.
Eureka 7? That used to be on Toonami. I went back and rewatched that. If you want a Transformers crossover, maybe. I would like to see that, but they might do that.
Yeah.
You should go watch that. If you want an anime that actually has good writing and a good ending, Eureka 7.
All right.
But just don't watch anything after the series is over.
What?
Because there is movies and like continuations.
I see. So just watch the series, don't watch the movies and stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Oh, Gun, what was that thing that we watched? The crazy like firefighters and shit like that. What was that? Oh my god, it's escaping me. Promare, that's it. Promare. That was
I haven't seen that.
That was an insane film. 100% you should watch that. It was great, and the mech designs in that game were awesome. But yes, Promare. The mechs in Promare would be really, really cool. But you know,
Pacific Rim. There you go.
Pac Rim. That would be cool. I think some of the what are they called Jaegers in Pac Rim were pretty cool. Right. But you know, I have to
form of kaiju crossover. You know, in the PvE mode, make it kaiju or something.
Did I say game? I meant film. Dude, I didn't even think about monsters. How could I not think about kaiju alongside mechs? That would be amazing. How did I forget Armored Core as well? My brain is firing on all cylinders right now.
Crossover.
Hell,
Monster Hunter crossover.
Yeah. I mean, look, Monster Hunter crossed over with Final Fantasy 14. It's not out of the realm of possibility that we get Monster Hunter armor and weapons.
Final Fantasy 14 crossover? We got plenty of fucking weapon mechs
the
bro.
the ruby weapon
All the
and
gem
emerald
weapons,
weapon.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
We got
my
Omega,
god.
throw Omega in there. We got Ultima, throw Ultima in as a boss.
Mate, there's so much possibility. How did we? Mate, my immediate like thought process was like, Gundam and Eva, but then you think like outside the box just a little bit, and we got.
Okay. It is China though, yes.
I
But
don't care.
China,
I don't
listen,
care.
well, you know what? You know what? We're gonna get a near crossover. That
Oh,
man said he will give 2B to anybody who wants to give him money. And he has.
literally, if you give Yoko Taro money, he'll give you what you want. So if we get
Giant mechs from 2B.
giant mech, giant 2B ass jiggles on
You're gonna get
on
2B outfit
Lumine.
for your character, and you're gonna have to fight the fucking giant chainsaw mech.
Oh mate, that would be a great boss fight, especially with like a six team whatever, like a 16 group. That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I think my ultimate, I mean, people know this about me. I love Iron Blooded Orphans. I think it gets way too much hate. I want like half of the roster in the game. That would be amazing. Barbatos with the different like 4 or 5 different forms, and some of the other Gundams that come in later, like Floweros and stuff like that, would be really, really cool.
Probably gonna be Hathaway. But before we move away from G-Wish, I would like to see G-Wish, but they're probably pushing Hathaway for most crossovers.
Although Witch from Mercury is really, really loved at the moment, so we might get Ariel. Ariel would be pretty cool.
Like that, surprisingly, I put her in my top 5 pilot list.
Really? I thought it was really, really popular.
There's a lot of people who didn't like it, especially this new one that's coming up. People do not like that Gundam design whatsoever.
Well, I personally didn't enjoy Witch from Mercury as much as some other people did, mostly because Suletta would not stop fucking crying and moaning. But the mech designs were pretty cool.
That even though she was like kind of soft, she wasn't scared to defend herself and others. Like, she wasn't a complete pussy. She was just kind of weak.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And there was a really cool moment when Suletta bursts through the like the space station or whatever and squishes the guy who's about to yeah. That's a really cool moment, which is like really unhinged, and I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, I can see it. All right, you know what? Last conversation I want to have, last topic, completely unrelated to Mecha Break. What are your top 3 mecha anime recommendations for people who are like maybe just getting into mecha? Like, yeah, let's go.
Gurren Lagann.
Mm-hmm.
Eureka 7. I would say Gundam, but I would have to do top 3 Gundam.
Okay,
And
so
I'm just gonna put Gundam in general on that slot.
All right, so Gundam in general. Let's say, what's your favorite series of Gundam, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh my god.
All-time favorite. Thunderbolt's dope. It's true.
Can I do top 3? That's fucking hard.
Okay. Top 3 within the top 3. I'll give you that.
Okay. IBO. I usually give people 3 recommendations to see each type of generation of Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
IBO is my new age
Mm-hmm.
that you should watch. Gundam, either Wing or G, is your old age that you should watch. If you want to understand the military bullshit, go watch Wing. If you just want to see Gundam fights, go watch G.
Mm-hmm.
And Unicorn is the middle, the transition between old age to new age when we started doing new things. I think people should watch Unicorn.
Okay.
Thunderbolt was in there. I like that, but
Mm-hmm. All right. Sweet. Well, that was the inaugural first ever episode of the Moonbow Network podcast. Thank you very much to I for joining me today. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Amy in. Hopefully, when we do this at another point in time, she'll be able to join us.
Code Geass. I've been watching the new season too. Okay, you got it.
Too late. Code Geass is out of the top 3. You picked it, and you got to stick to it. So yeah, this is kind of a much more open format. I'm absolutely happy to be open to return guests. So if you want to come back on, I'm totally happy for that. But if anybody that's
Anytime.
watching has any thoughts about mechabreak, if you played in any of the betas, the ones that we can at least talk about, if you have any thoughts about it, if you make YouTube videos, I'm more than happy to have you on. Feel free to message me on Twitch, or I think my email address is down there somewhere. But if not, you can always just contact me on Discord, which I know is definitely down in the description or whatever the hell you call it. But yes, that will be us wrapping up for tonight. Thank you, everybody who was watching. Before we go, tell them about yourself. What do you do? Where can they find you at?
I was a big fighting gamer. I'm now currently pushing a lot of team gaming content as well as a couple of playthroughs. You can find me I Love God on Twitch, Twitter, Bisky, Instagram, all of that stuff, you know. Really, I'm probably rating 114 lately. The team gaming has been kind of killing my sanity, to be honest. So now I am kind of like us against the machines, rather us against the people. So it's a little less toxic, but it's still there. Obviously, the rating scene is kind of crazy. But catch my streams. I'm doing builds on my Sanaju at some point soon. I've got a fucking Millennium puzzle back there I need to build. It has no instructions. It's just figure it the fuck out. As well as when Mechabreak comes out, I'm probably going to be one of maybe 2 or 3 people that's playing the thing on flight sticks and pedals. Look out for my foot cam. And that's about it, to be honest.
Beautiful. So yes, please go and follow He's a great guy, great content creator. And if you just want to stay tuned on this channel for the mechabreak/mech stuff, then feel free to. You can find me on Twitter at DanaRaiTwitch. I'm now on Blue Sky as well at DanaRaiTwitch, because that's where Amy predominantly or only has social media. But yeah, thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow or some other games on this channel. Right. Take care. Stay safe.
Later, y'all.